Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Oh, good morning again, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to introduce everyone to Jon Bernie. Jon, thanks for joining us. Jon's with us every year, at least once. Jon's a contemporary spiritual teacher who offers a compassionate, heart-centered approach to spiritual awakening. And he's ordained as a monk in the lineage of Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, and he studied Theravada Zen and the Advaita traditions. He's also author of 2 books, Ordinary Freedom and The Unbelievable Happiness of What Is. So welcome, Jon. I'm going to pass the mic to you, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be back with you again, and I'm so glad we can meet in this way. I've been leading online groups every week since this coronavirus situation has been happening, and it's been so incredible to be able to sit with so many people around the world and to really tune in and deeply benefit from profound connectedness of our being, even though it's through this, through technology. Probably some of you have met me before. I've been a speaker at GBF numerous times, and I thought it might be nice to start with a little introduction of my background. If you aren't familiar with me or my background, it might be helpful to say a few words, which is that I think as far as my sexuality goes, I think I started realizing that I was gay when I was 11. And by the time I was 16, I came out. That was 1969. I came out to my parents and to family and close friends, and marched. I grew up on the peninsula, and I marched on Polk Street with 100 other people for gay liberation in 1969. And that march the following year became the Gay Freedom Parade. So I was involved in the early gay rights movement, and then lived in San Francisco for most of the last, how many years that's been? Long time. I had also at the same year, when I was 16, I had a spiritual awakening. I didn't know what that was, and I didn't find out for about 4 years later what had happened to me, because I had no religious background at all, really. I was pretty anti-religious, actually, not spiritual, didn't know anything about meditation. And I was on a sort of track, concert violinist, straight A student, was going to go to Stanford Medical School, and this awakening changed my life completely. And I ended up dropping out of college after a couple of years and hitchhiking across the country, and ended up and became a Buddhist monk. So I started an intense meditation practice when I was pretty young, and did many years of Zen practice, many years of Vipassana practice, and then met eventually my first, had a close relationship with my first realized teacher, Jean Klein, and had a number of relationships like that with a number of teachers over the years, and have been working as a healer and alternative therapist and teacher for over 4 decades. So that's sort of a quick overview. I don't know if that's helpful for you to hear that, but I was just thinking about what would be helpful for you in our group today that I can offer you. And usually I work with people pretty directly, even online. So when I do groups, we meditate for periods, short periods, and then there's some talk, teaching. And then there's dialogue. So I often ask people if they're interested in sitting together or interacting, and that's kind of how I work in this setting, and even in public settings when I do retreats and satsangs in San Francisco and the retreats that I give. So I'd like to also have that be an option today. I'll give some amount of talk, but I'd also like to really give you an opportunity, if you're interested, to, raise your hand, and we can just sit together. We can tune in very deeply, and I'm here to support you in your process, whatever might be helpful for you, wherever you are in your journey. There may be something I have that could be helpful. So that's really what I'm here for. I like people to know a little bit about my background, so you know kind of who you're dealing with. I'm 67 now, so it was I just realized it was like 51 years ago that I had this awakening, and it's completely not only changed my life, but has guided my life to this day and continues to. And it's really beautiful to work with so many people around the world who are really, I would say, on having authentic journey of awakening and transformation, regardless of their beliefs or their background, whether they have religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs, or whether they have a practice or not. It's a very natural unfoldment that can happen for any individual, regardless of their background. And often it happens, and I see this a lot today with young students who I have all around the world, that they're awakening and have no background at all, none. And I didn't either, actually, so I'm very familiar with this. And so it didn't really, it's really not necessarily what you read, what you heard, what you practice, but it's really more if that movement is happening in you, the natural movement of awakening, then how to support that as that's happening. And so I think a lot of the practices and teachings really are designed to support that happening. A lot of times people think it's the other way around, that somehow we're responsible to become free of suffering. We're responsible to be free of delusion. We're responsible for enlightenment and awakening. And actually, that's not quite true. It's really the natural transformation of a human being when one is tuned in a certain way can really happen. And it's often it can be a very long and a very difficult journey for people to go through that transformation. So anyway, because I don't really know you and haven't been with most of you, I'm not sure what you need or want, so I'll certainly open that up in a minute or two. What I'd like to do is let's start with a little guided awareness practice I'd like to do with you. Even though we just had a sitting, I'd like to invite you to sit with your eyes open or closed, whatever way you're comfortable. And I often like to start with a few deep breaths just to get centered in the body and out of the head. I like to call them breathing a sigh of relief, where you just take a nice deep inhalation through your mouth into your lungs, and then just release a kind of sigh. Often can help discharge a lot of buildup, especially now with the sort of challenge that we're all facing. It can build up a lot of anxiety and concern and emotional pressure. So it's very helpful to learn how to do some emotional or energetic clearing in the system before one meditates, before one tunes in and pays attention. So you might try that and see if that is helpful for you or not. If you don't want to, it's fine. Just a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, just allow yourself to tune into yourself right now. Notice what your current attention is on naturally. So your mind may be stirred up, or your emotions may be stirred up. Your body may be having sensations. You might be aware of energies or a deeper connectedness. Just notice what is available, what is present for you right now. Even if you're uncomfortable or unhappy or agitated in some way, just notice what your internal state is right now. And if you're able to just gently direct your attention to the breath, the natural movement of your breath as it's coming in and out of your body. Just as a way of relaxing the mind, calming the nervous system, and allowing yourself to naturally find a deeper center in yourself, a balanced center in yourself. If you're able to feel the breath in your belly, below your navel, that's very helpful. But if not, just be aware of it in whatever way is available to you. If your mind is distracted or agitated, no problem. Just notice that. Gently, without force or judgment, bring your attention back to the natural movement of your breath and to the sensations you're having in your body. So you can just allow your body to naturally find its way to unwinding and just being here. If you're having a difficult time just being here, notice that. And if you're able to give yourself some compassion for how it is for you right now, if it's difficult. Maybe even give yourself some forgiveness if you're judging yourself or others. And allow yourself to pay attention in a way that's very gentle, very tender, very patient. And that gives you complete permission to be exactly how you are right now. So you can begin to let go of any effort to be here. Just simply being here is enough right now. Again, if your mind's wandering, no problem. Don't worry about that. Minds wander. That's what they do. Just gently bring your attention back to whatever you're sensing and the breath if you're able to. If you're noticing a deeper sense of peace or a deeper openness or connectedness, presence, then give that your attention. Let that be the foreground and let all the other movements be in the background. And allow yourself to just rest and be nurtured and nourished in this deep connectedness. This simple practice, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with, basically is essential more than ever now with what we're all facing, the unknowable future, which is always how it's been, actually. That we never know what the future is, and we're always only here. And so the practice that you've been doing and are working on in yourself is extraordinarily helpful and an incredible resource to have now more than ever. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to open up a little bit, and we can go back into a deeper place as well. In fact, even while I'm working with individuals, I invite you to stay deeply tuned in so you're not going externalized so much and thinking or getting distracted by my words or someone else's interaction, but rather see if you can keep your attention more centered in yourself deeply so that you're taking care of you. You're tending your garden right now and not being involved in anything else, just keeping it really simple. If you have a question or would like to sit together, we can deeply tune in together, and I'm happy to work with you as individuals. So if you're interested in that, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you and I'll pin your video and we can have an interaction that everyone can also be a part of in a sense, deeply. If you don't, and there's no requirement for that, that may not be what you want to do, but it's something that I work with regularly. And many people find it quite helpful. So, yes, is it Mike? Hold on, let me unmute you. Hold on. Oh, wait, there it goes. And I'm going to pin your video too so I can see you. There you go. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
How do you pronounce your name?
Mike. It's really Michael, but when I went to did my email, all the spellings were not available. So
okay.
What can I say? I was interested in your, what you mentioned, an awakening.
Yes.
And I wonder if you could say something about that experience.
Sure.
What it was like for you, maybe what you are aware of in terms of other people's experience in this regard, because I'm just baffled by this a little bit. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it.
Certainly. Well, I can understand how you feel. because there's a lot of talk about this now, and there's people who've talked about all kinds of experiences they've had. And unfortunately, if one hasn't had that kind of experience or doesn't, or has had other experiences, that can be off-putting even, I would say. And I think it's probably why the Zen guys, for the most part, didn't say much, and didn't really say much to anybody until somebody showed the natural signs of it, and then they would give them an acknowledgement, if that makes sense to you. Just a second, I have a little tear coming out of my right eye. My own experience started, I guess, pretty young in questioning, and I don't know how much to share with you about it, because I think, Mike, my experience of working with people, and I've had countless people I've worked with over decades awaken. And I think that really what's more important is to, if you're interested in awakening, if that's something that's very appealing to you, that there's a way to pay attention in your own experience, and you may be surprised that that access, or what people are referring to as that, may be actually something you are starting to be aware of. And so part of my job in the role that I have with people is to, when I'm with them, to deeply tune in with them and then give them feedback when they start noticing that. That's what my teacher Jean Klein did for me, and it was incredibly helpful when when we were tuned in this profound connectedness, and he said, "This is it, you get it." And I go, "Oh, good," because then all the teachings just dropped away. I didn't need them anymore, because it really, when you awaken, it's really what the path is. It's what the Dharma really means, is this. And even Suzuki Roshi, who found your face is dropped way down in the picture. There you are. So you can stabilize your image. That would be helpful. Even Suzuki Roshi, who founded Tassajara, the first monastery in North America, and the Zen Center, is definitely an enlightened teacher. Are you there, Mike? Okay. He said that practice begins with enlightenment, begins with awakening. Because, wait a minute, what happened to... I lost him. Oh, there you are. Okay, I lost your picture. It dropped out of my view. I'm sorry. Okay. It's really, there's a deeper sense of awareness that people begin to access that really is the teaching, that really is the path, that isn't really the words or the practices. It's really a deeper awareness. And so for me, what happened at the age of 16, which was, I think when I was 11, I was arguing about the existence of God with a Sunday school teacher, and I wasn't buying it. And so I came home and I told my mother I was too busy practicing the violin and I wasn't going to Sunday school anymore. I said, "Okay, honey," she didn't care. Fortunately, I had I was very reformed Jewish background, and we were not religious. So it was no big deal. And I decided at age 11 that when I saw God, I'd believe it. And at 11, I became an agnostic. And I basically felt that most of my friends in their respective religions were being brainwashed. That's kind of how I felt about it. I was very science oriented. I was very empiricist, like, show me, I want to have an experience. I'm not a believer. And I've never been a believer, and I've never been a follower, and I don't attract people who are, actually, because I think we really have to learn how to think for ourselves. And we can't really follow another way, because the awakening process is very individual. And so when you tune in deeply, you begin to find the way, because that wisdom is within us. It's not something you learn and then it becomes a part of you and then you follow it. That's not how it really works. I mean, I know people think that and do that, but it's actually not really how it works. How it really works is that wisdom of connectedness, the life force, really is within us. And the question is, how do we get access to it? So the questioning I had at the age of 16, I was reading a lot of existentialism, and I was really questioning the meaning of life. And here I was, straight A student, going to go to Stanford, concert violinist, performing, very heavy duty life schedule at that age. And I just didn't see the point. I was gay. I was coming out. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? It's like, I could see my parents and their friends who were successful people. They didn't look happy to me. And I questioned, it was the 60s, for God's sakes, it was really a time of questioning. It was here on the West Coast. It was in San Francisco, California, on the peninsula. And we were marching in the streets back then for the peace movement, anti-war movement. It was a great time of social unrest and questioning our values here. I was very much involved in the counterculture in that way, I'd say. So part of my mind was really saying, I was asking these deep questions. What is truly the meaning of this life? And what happened to me, Mike, was that something just guided me in a way to eventually sit in my beanbag chair, fully nude, when my parents had gone to bed, and I decided I was just going to stare at the wall, and I was going to sit there until I discovered what it was. And I didn't know anything about meditation. I knew nothing. How did I know to do that? It was like concentrated meditation. And I had this huge shift in consciousness where I wasn't there anymore. It was just profound light. It was like I'd merged with the sun. I wasn't on drugs or anything. It was, back then I described it as a billion times orgasm, as if every cell in my body had had a nuclear explosion. And when I came back into consciousness, when I came back into the body in the room, there was this imploding into me and exploding through me, almost like a kind of, it was like I was being ripped apart in sync with my breathing. And I started shaking and I cried, and I realized I looked and I saw I'd been sitting there for 3 hours. And I felt at that moment that if I died, my life had been worth it. That was the first thing. Second thing was that my life had total meaning at that moment where it never did before. It just did. It was like everything in my life, when I could look back at my history, felt like there was a connectedness, that there was, I just knew there was something. And whatever, and I have felt guided, and there was a trajectory into the so-called future, which also was there. It was a sense of trusting. And then there was this light, this presence that was awake for me. That's called presence today. And I could see it and feel it, and has been with me ever since. So that's an initial awakening experience. And then I realized pretty soon after that I had a lot of karma to clean up, that I was a highly conditioned, screwed up human being, and with lots of, overwhelming programming and trauma from my upbringing and my parent, the whole thing. And that I had a lot of personal work to do on myself. I didn't know what had happened to me. I didn't find out till I was 20, and I met somebody who was very aware of this and she told me. And of course I went and became a monk and practiced for decades, and very intensely. So, and I didn't really, it was a very gradual discovery and learning about what this is. It's taken a lifetime, really. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Thank you for sharing your experience.
You're welcome. But I would also like to say that each person's process is completely unique. It's not like they have to do what I did or did what anybody else did. It's more that if someone learns to be sensitive and to tune in a particular way, this guiding force, if it's truly authentically happening for you, will flower, will begin to grow and flower. There's no question. And most spiritual practice is really designed to support the natural unfoldment that happens.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Yeah. Good luck.
Thank you.
Why don't we all sit for another minute, and then I'll take another question. Oh, wow. What time do I have to stop the thing? Because
like 10 till.
Okay. So that's we have good. Another 12 minutes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
38. No. Yeah. So let's just sit for a minute. So just take a moment just to kind of recalibrate. It's, for me, a kind of short meeting for what I do, but it's fine. I would like to invite you just to mention that these online groups that I've been doing every week, if you're interested or like to try, check it out. They're on Saturday mornings from 11 to 1 West Coast time. And you can go to my website, Jon Bernie, JONBERNIE.org, and you can get the information there if you're interested in joining. We usually get about 100 people from about 12 countries around the world. And it's a beautiful gathering for a couple of hours each Saturday. There's also an online retreat I'm doing May 1st through 3rd that you can find out information about there as well if you're interested. Okay. So let yourself just tune in again. Take a moment to breathe. If you've gotten distracted or sidetracked with my interaction with Mike. And just bring your attention back to whatever's present for you right now. It's beautiful how you're tuning in and coming back to the present moment, which is really what I recommend as much as possible doing when you can, so you can kind of refresh your browser, so to speak, your internal browser, and really just start fresh right now, because each moment is really a beginning. And as you develop in your practice, as you develop in this way of understanding, you might say, that you'll begin to find yourself a lot more open and at peace. Even though you may get triggered by various things and challenged by various things, you'll be able to release that and come back to a place of equanimity and inner stillness, which will be very, very helpful through this situation we are all sharing together now. So if you have a question or like to sit together, please raise your hand. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm doing the best I can. Feel free to, let me just check the other room and see if there's somebody in that group that wants. Thomas. Yes. Let me unmute you and let me pin your video here.
There we go.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, John. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for, reminding us of things that I think we all know, but we seem to fall asleep or forget.
Sure.
Bringing us back.
Of course.
I noticed when you've been with us in the past in person at GBF and in your satsangs, I've participated a few times, how important it is for you to see the person that you're talking to. And I was reminded of that, a moment ago when you could no longer see the video of Mike and how important it was to reconnect. So I'd like to ask you about that. And, I've always admired that in people, whether they be politicians or, anyone, where suddenly you become the only person in the room because there's just this direct connection. And so I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how we can employ that and the importance of it when we're connecting one-on-one with any other individual.
Well, yes, I think that it's an interesting question. Even though there's a certain, when I'm working with an individual, to me, the experience is almost like psychic screen sharing. So it's almost like it's not them and me anymore. There's just the field of what's going on. So in that realm, I do work that might be called emotionally empathetic. It's like I can really feel what somebody's feeling. I can sense certain conditions in their energy field and give them feedback. And actually, it's almost as if our energy fields merge. It's almost a kind of psychic bioentrainment, like the mycelium network on a psychic level, quite frankly. So that's how I work with people. And even though Mike's question was pretty much just informational, he wanted to know my background or something. So it didn't really go into a deeper interactive field, as you've probably seen me work with people. That's why it's important. But even so, it's true also that when I work with individuals, that people in the group often will feel that they're getting it as well. When they're tuning in a certain way, there is no person in the middle who's only getting attention. So there's a way of paying attention that isn't subject-object oriented. It's not you and me. And that's really where I perceive from. I'm not saying I'm always perceiving that way, but I'd say certainly in my work, that is how I am. And so it's not just you, it's everyone that's here together. And I did feel that happen when I finished my little intro about my background and started guiding the group. I could feel the whole group energy just connect. There was a kind of synergistic, almost jello that just, became gelatinous. It just became this like undulating oneness, right? And so that's really that's the realm of where teaching truly happens. It's not verbal. So, but I think that what's really helpful is to begin to, when you tune into yourself in a certain way that drops your own identity, then when you're with another, you're not relating to a separate person anymore. That's really my experience. So there's just this feeling, and I can even sense it with you, there's a connection, there's a connectedness, even though we're apart. Whether, I'm not sure if you're sensing that, but I am. And so, there's this kind of realm where we're, in a sense, unified, the oneness, so to speak. And that's what non-duality is talking about, is just this, what Christianity or called God really was really just the oneness. And so there's a lot of words for it, but it's unnameable and it's unknowable. And so, but you clearly are tuned in that way, which is beautiful. And I think the more we can spend time allowing this to come into foreground, it's really the realm of awakened consciousness. But it continually evolves the human condition. So it's really understanding. I think the middle way that Buddha spoke about was really the interface between the relative and the absolute, between your just sort of conditioned human experience and your vast interconnected experience, rather than a lot of spiritual teaching, which has been designed to sort of reject the human experience or marginalize it or judge it as sinful and so forth, and that you just want to be the mountaintop of samadhi. And that's just a half-baked approach. It's really not realistic. And it's okay, some people want that, but the real full journey is in the Zen, is drawn in the Zen ox-herding pictures, when the monk, who once he reaches the top of the mountain, eventually comes back to the marketplace. And so it's really about bringing this consciousness, which you clearly are aware of, back into your personal body, your mind, your heart, your relationships, your work, and so forth. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. And it's beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the question. It's great to be with you guys. I really, I wish we all had more time together, but that's why I want to invite you. If you want to join me on my other thing, you're welcome. But it's, very nice to see you, and thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so I guess we just have about 3 more minutes before it's your signing off time. So why don't we just sit quietly together? And I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to wish you well. I hope you stay healthy and well, and that all of your loved ones do. I know this is an incredibly difficult time. A couple of my students have just gotten over COVID, and one of them had a pretty rough go of it. And I know another one of my students, her stepbrother died from it. And this is a very intense world situation that we're sharing. And my heart goes out to you with a tremendous amount of love. And I just wish you the best. And thanks again for inviting me and being with you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And why don't we just sit for the last 2 minutes before the final part of your meeting is handled. Okay. So maybe just take a breath and tune in again. Notice how you're doing, how it is for you right now. Can I just share one brief thing before you? Can I just share one? Yeah,
Please.
I forgot to mention. You might get a kick out of this. Way back many years ago, a very dear friend of mine, Tommy Dorsey, who became Isan Dorsey, he founded the Hartford Street Zen Center. And another dear friend, Billy Graham, who was one of the founders of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and was a TM teacher, and I think he used to sing in the gay choir. The three of us started the first gay Buddhist group. And I think this group was an offshoot of that, and the other gay Buddhist groups are offshoots of that. We used to have meetings at the San Francisco Zen Center's guest house, and we used to have speakers there. And one of the speakers we got was Allen Ginsberg, and we got about 80 people for that talk. And the title of his talk was "Cocksucking and Dharma," which was really amazingly funny and great. And I actually have a recording of it. I'm not sure what to do with that thing, but it's pretty incredible. And so I just thought you'd get a kick out of hearing that. And it's just a pleasure to have been with you. And I wish you all really well. So thanks again.
John, thank you very much for joining us and for your teachings and just your presence. We would love to listen to that talk.
Yeah, I'm not sure I can. I mean, I don't know if it's legal to share that or not with his archives and whoever owns his stuff. I've been a little wondering about it. I've had it for so long, and we did digitalize it at one point, I think. So
maybe we could have a private,
yeah, right. Yeah. Could do something. I know it's amazing. He really gets down and talks about a lot of stuff that's pretty extraordinary. His relationships and just so many things that I've never heard him talk about. So. I actually, when I was 16, I was a stage monitor at a peace rally in Civic Center, and he was one of the speakers, and we smoked a joint together, and I took pictures of him, which I have. He had a big beard, and he had a little harmonium. He was eating sunflower seeds, sitting cross-legged on the ground, and yeah, we got stoned together. It was fun. He was a character.
Nice.
Total character.
That's good. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you again, John. As we wrap up, we'll make some time for announcements right now. So if anybody has any announcements, and I want to include also, that, and you can, you can unmute yourself if you have an announcement. But that could also include a need, I mean, this is a kind of extraordinary time right now, and everyone's experiencing both the pandemic and the quarantine differently. And so if you have a need, or I want to say if there's someone near you and you're not helping with resources, this could be an opportunity where we can support one another too. So I'll just open it up for a moment. If anyone, I have a couple announcements about upcoming meetings, but before I get to that business, if anyone has a need or seeking resources or announcements, please take it away. Richard.
Okay, Wednesday at 7:30, GBF will having our Wednesday meeting, and it's a two-part. We will meditate for a half hour, and then we have a brief check-in. And this week, we're going to invite people to share either a piece of art they created or something that inspires them. So this has kind of been an experiment. Last week we did poetry. So if you're interested in joining us, Jerry will be sending out the link to that. So please consider it.
Thank you. Tom, please.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, it was saying nobody can unmute themselves. So just one last reminder, everyone. This last week, I deleted our Yahoo group, so we're no longer on that platform for communication and emails and everything. So just one final reminder, if you do wish to receive updates and emails and stuff, if you have not already, please go to our website. You'll find a link there to sign up for our Google group. Very similar, just different platform. And just FYI, out of about 1,200 people on that original list, about 120 have come over. So smaller, more interested, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Next week, next Sunday, we're going to do something of an open discussion, but a little bit different. Mark and Baruch and I are going to be facilitating, and we want it to be a little bit more dynamic, maybe than past like small group discussions. And we're been sharing a survey and inviting people to complete it, just to share a few words about what's kind of urgent for you right now, what's to help drive these conversations a little bit. It feels like almost a lot of our meetings have been very responsive to where people are at. I really appreciated the way you just let things be as they are for us today versus coming with a script. And I think that's helpful for where we are right now. And that's the idea of next week's. So, in the chat, I shared the link to the survey, and I'll send it out again via the Google group, just to say, like, what's urgent for you right now. If you have a chance to sit down and talk with 3 to 5 other Sangha members, what would you want to talk about? Or what are you looking for right now when we come together? We're going to have some similar idea, talk a little bit, reflect a little bit, talk a little bit, and have some contemplation together next week. Mark, do you want to say anything more? I think you're on the sit right now, but I wanted to let you, see if you wanted to speak to that. I don't know if Mark wanted to share.
The only thing I would mention is you did a beautiful job of just presenting that for next week, and that we're going to, I think the 3 of us will meet, I think, on Wednesday. So if you're able to do that survey now, after we end here, the next couple of days, that'd be helpful. So we can then prepare more fully for next week. So we look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, please, if you want to share your thoughts, do it before Wednesday, because Wednesday is when we're going to be planning a little bit. Are there any other announcements, people? Again, next week is going to be this discussion with Mark, open discussion with Mark and Baruch and I. I thought there was something else. Donna. Sorry?
Jeff wanted to speak.
Oh, Jeff, please. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I was going to speak about the same thing. We still have our overhead at GBF. That hasn't declined. So if you could be as generous as possible and go to our website at gaybuddhist.org. On the home page or on the donation page, there's a link to pay through PayPal, or you can mail it to our P.O. Box on Market Street. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so the link is on the chat as well as the website. Right. So we can finish by, every time we meet and sit, we're accumulating merit, and we want to pass that on for the benefit of all beings, which is why we're doing this. So, Cass, are you with us today? Maybe you can, do the dedication of merit. I don't see your name. Maybe you're under a different name, but I can take a go out of it. So if we could just, in our hearts and minds, take a moment and we dedicate any merit that may have been accumulated for the benefit of all beings everywhere. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all beings never be separated from the one true bliss, which is free from all suffering and all sorrow. May all beings live in the great equanimity, free from all attachment and aversion. May all beings believe and have heart and work for the benefit of all beings and the truth and justice for all. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.